Let's talk about Netflix, stock symbol NFLX. A lot going on with this one today, down 8.5%. Market's selling off. This one's starting to get hammered as well. It started off the year really well. It was up 30% at one point, has since pulled back 50%, giving up about half of the year's gains. So in this video, what I want to do is I want to provide the technical analysis, let you know where I see its pivotal price points going forward. I don't think that there's really an opportunity just yet to go ahead and get long on this stock. There may be some trend lines here that we can work with, but overall, this is one of those stocks that hasn't really felt the pure wrath of this market just yet, and there could be a little bit more to the downside for it to come. But instead of me just yapping about it, let's go ahead and look at the charts. So let's look at December of last year. You had what was essentially like a little mini topping pattern that had formed. You had essentially traded sideways for the better part of a month before it finally broke down. And when it broke down, it didn't just, go flat or sideways. It actually started trading lower to the downside, going from, upon confirmation, about 888 all the way down to 823. Pretty significant move. Not a full 10% move, but about a 7.5% move. Now we're getting a much bigger topping pattern, and we're getting a much more significant confirmation of this. Before, it was just like a meandering its way below the confirmation level of this topping pattern. Now we have a very big and hard break, taking it below the 50-day moving average as well. Now, quick point about the moving averages on the stock. A lot of times you'll see a tendency with the stock to want to bounce off a specific moving average. Not all of them, obviously, but there will be some, like one or two, that it will have a tendency to follow. In this case, there really isn't much. There's no 200-day involvement as far as you can go back. Hasn't really respected the 200-day moving average at all. And the 50-day moving average, could care less about it. And then the shorter term moving averages, like the 5, the 10, and the 20, doesn't care much about those either. So the moving averages as being a form of support, really off the board right now. There's just no sign of it. But where I think that there could be a potential, especially with the market getting extremely oversold here, could be a potential bounce opportunity, will be on this rising trend line off of the October lows. It's only been tested once, and that one time is what ended up creating this trend line. There hasn't been that third test until now. And on this third test, we tested it, we held it, but we have yet to see a bounce off of it. Now, it did dip below it a little bit intraday, but the closing price is really what matters here. And in this case, it did hold that level going into the close. So that will be a key moment for the stock tomorrow. Is it playable? Absolutely. Is it the most oversold stock out there right now? No. I mean, I think you got stocks like NVIDIA and Google and Meta. Those stocks have been getting hit really hard of late. Those have much more bounce opportunity to them. Netflix, yeah, it's got a little bit, but the selling really didn't start taking full hold until today. Like half of these losses of late have come from just this one candle right here. So it's not a massive sell-off that's been ensuing over the past month or so. It's really just one that really got cranked up here today. But nonetheless, it does take it into oversold territory. And there is the potential for this to be a bounce level for the stock. Also, if you draw this line across, it hasn't really been tested much lately, but guess what else? It could be coinciding with this previous topping pattern here. Perhaps there is some support there. I think going into tomorrow, it'll quickly resolve whether or not it intends to bounce off of these two levels going forward. Now, if it does bounce, what do you want to be aware of? Well, first off, a lot of times when you have these hard breaks or on these topping patterns like you saw today, there is a reactionary bounce at some point or a counter rally. And if you get that counter rally, what you want to watch for is resistance that builds at 953. So if it does bounce from this 906 back up to 953, not a bad move, about 5%. But you want to make sure that if it starts to get bogged here, at the very least, take some profits off the table. And if it starts to see a sharp rejection, go ahead and close out the position, because you don't want it to just be a dead cat bounce that takes it right back up to resistance and then resumes the downtrend, because that's oftentimes what does happen. And if that does happen, you have some other levels that we want to be aware of. One is this price level right here. It's a little bit unorthodox. It's not one that I usually take a lot of interest in, but this could be a support level. It's acted as resistance before, and then it came back down, tested it in January, held it as support along with this rising trend line. So if it does break below 899 tomorrow, I would watch this level right here at 863. I think that could be a pivotal level for Netflix to potentially bounce at. Other support levels that I would be paying close attention to, perhaps this rising trend line just underneath the 200-day moving average, which I don't really think there's a history with the 200, so I don't really care too much about that. But this rising trend line has some potential to it. Again, there's no like trend line, and this is what kind of irritates me a little bit about this chart. There's no rising trend line that has been consistently tested, like at least retested twice, only retested once. This is the most consistent support level that I've seen, and it's very unorthodox. But this level right here, only been tested once to form the trend line. It hasn't been retested since. 765, maybe. These are very speculative trend lines. And that's really about it. There's nothing else that I really can see on this chart that says, hey, you're going to want to pay close attention to one of these levels. It's just not there. And while it's a pretty shocking move, I mean, I looked at the Netflix chart earlier today. I was like, whoa, what the heck caused this massive sell-off? I mean, it was pretty surprising how much it did sell off. Unless that one trend line holds, and even if it does hold, I don't know if it's really the best bounce opportunity out there. If you start seeing a broad market bounce, and we saw one yesterday, but it didn't get the continuation today, and we've seen SPY bounce at other occasions as well, just recently, like this particular candle right there, and then this one here, and we didn't get any continuation. So for 3 times in a row now, when we've gotten a market bounce, we haven't seen good continuation, and it happened the same time again today. So even if we get a bounce tomorrow, let's say we do, is that really something we want to put trust in based off of what we've seen the last 3 times? No, I think I'd want to see a confirmation the following day, some continuation to make me want to get more aggressive with dip buying at these levels, even though it is really oversold. If you enjoyed this episode, I would encourage you to like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments below, what are your favorite bounce plays going into tomorrow if this market's to bounce? Again, we can't take it for granted or that it is going to bounce. We saw today just how ugly this market can get, even after one of the most promising bounces that you could have gotten yesterday or the day before. Today, just absolutely blood in the streets. So you don't want to take it for granted, and you want to make sure that you're not getting yourself overexposed on any bounce attempt. So let me know down in the comments below, what are the bounce plays that you're watching? What do you think of Netflix too? Do you think this is one that we should be considering for a bounce or not? Thank you guys, and God bless.